In this module, we are going to begin our discussion of political philosophy. Now, before everybody gets concerned, this is not the same thing as talking about politics. We're not doing that. We are not going to discuss any specific political figure or political party or anything like that. When we do political philosophy, we're examining politics and political theory through philosophy. So we're not going to be talking about contemporary issues within politics, but we're going to be talking about theories of social justice and how they are interpreted, or philosophically how we can examine them, examine the underlying assumptions that people sometimes make. So I said we're going to talk about social justice. So let's just get straight on a few terms. Justice. Justice is thought to be what people should, that people should get what they deserve. An individual ought to receive things in response to what they deserve. If somebody does something very, very bad, we tend to think that they ought to suffer in response. If somebody does very, very well, we tend to think that they should be rewarded. This is getting what they deserve. We more often than not talk about justice in terms of retributive justice. Retributive justice is that goes on in the legal system. People are punished appropriately for their misbehaviors. Retributive, think about the word retribution. Retributive justice is the kind of justice where people are going to receive punishment or reward. So if somebody jaywalks, they're going to receive a ticket. But if somebody murders, they're going to go to jail for a very, very long time. Does that make sense? Now, when we talked about morality, we talked about this notion of what makes an action right or wrong. So we didn't get into and what happens to people when they do so. Within the legal system, within governments and states, there are punishments for misbehaviors. Depending on your moral theory and perhaps your religious beliefs, there are going to be punishments for misbehaviors. The thing is, in political philosophy, we're not really talking about any of that. What we are talking about is distributive justice. Distributive justice, or social justice, has to do with what counts as fair distribution of goods in society. So there is a certain amount of resources in a society: money, food, jobs, etc., etc. There is a limited amount of that, and how we distribute that throughout society is distributive justice. So different people have different ideas on this notion of distributive justice, which is why we are going to look at some of the different theories.